On January 12th, 2024, Nara Smith posted a TikTok video making her children peanut butter and jam sandwiches. Like many momfluencers on the app, Nara primarily shares lifestyle vlogs and aesthetic homemaking content. Cooking barefoot in her white marble kitchen, wearing a red lip while tending to her children, showcasing her loving relationship with her husband, and narrating all of this in a soft voice that conveys that she has found the ultimate happiness and peace from her domestic life. But unlike most other momfluencers on TikTok, Nara is making the peanut butter and jam sandwiches from scratch. Like, scratch.
This morning my toddler stumbled into my room and her first words were PB&J, so that's exactly what I got started on. Growing up, I loved having fresh bread. It was one of my favorite things, so I get it. Started by making a really simple sandwich bread with some yeast, water, salt, sugar, and flour. Kneaded that until a dough formed and then let that dough rise for about 2 hours until it doubled in size. I started on my raspberry jam. I used some lemon, monk fruit sweetener, but you can also use sugar and some cornstarch to thicken it. While that was going, I started on my peanut butter. I roasted all my peanuts in the oven and then ground them up with some sea salt until a paste formed. You can definitely add honey to this if you want to. I didn't today because the jelly would be quite sweet. So by this time my bread was doubled in size, so I punched it to release all the air and then split it in two. Rolled that out and then folded that over to fit in my loaf pans. I let that rest for another 30 minutes to about an hour until it looked like a decent size in my loaf pan, and then I popped that in the oven and it came out so perfectly brown, soft in the middle. I was so excited, I couldn't wait, so I definitely sliced it a little too early. My daughter requested a mini PB&J, so I cut the bread down and spread it with my peanut butter and jelly, cut it diagonally, and this was really good. She ended up having a few of them and wanted more.
It's Nara's commitment to making her family homemade meals from scratch while looking gorgeous and calm that has built her a loyal following of over 3 million, who have branded her a very loaded label: Tradwife. And though Nara, a woman of color, has not openly peddled Tradwife ideology, nor has she been clear about her political or religious beliefs, she is just one of many young mothers on TikTok who have found themselves accused of taking women's progress back in time to the 1950s, an accusation that is not always justified. From Centennial World, I'm Lauren Meisner, and this is Infinite Scroll, a podcast about internet culture, the creator economy, and how social media is shaping Gen Z. Welcome back to Infinite Scroll, everyone. I am so excited to be back. It feels like it's been so long since I recorded my episode with Crystal on Taylor Swift. We recorded it so early, so it's been quite a while since I've sat down to record, but I am happy to be back. It was really nice having a co-host to be able to have help prepping, but also be kind of that banter and that conversational style back. That is something that I know I've missed. I know you guys have really missed. So it was really great to have her kind of involved in last week's episode. And it made me feel much more comfortable with like looking for co-hosts and kind of planning out my schedule like that for, some deep dives in the future, which is really exciting. So as always, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. It means so much. Reading your reviews really keeps me going in this time. No, but it actually is the best. I love it. It makes my week. It makes it worth it, what I'm doing here. So I absolutely love it. And sign up to our newsletter, which is also called Infinite Scroll. So on Wednesdays, we send out a commentary article about a trend, creator, drama, or news. And on Fridays, we round up the 5 biggest think pieces about internet culture on the internet that week. Also join our Geneva group, which is called Infinite Scroll as well, where you guys can talk to other people who are just as obsessed with internet culture as we all are. And you can also chat with me. So I will read a couple reviews. Like I said last week, we recorded so early, so I'm so sorry if you left a review and thought maybe you would hear it last week, but hopefully you will hear it this week. So Elise says, "Love the new format. You're doing amazing, so well-researched and informative. Thank you for continuing on. I'd be devastated if Infinite Scroll disappeared from my life." Oh, thank you, Elise. I would be devastated too, so don't worry. We're going to keep going and have very exciting things in the works for the future of this podcast and what I am bringing back. I think I will let you guys know as soon as I know. I think it will probably be April 1st. which I think is April Fool's Day, but I'm dead serious. I think it will be April 1st, that I have something else really big and exciting coming for you guys. The next review is from Sammy, and they say, more obsessed than ever. Go, Lauren. I'm loving the new format, and I'm so happy that you're continuing on and finding your groove. Get it, girl. Always backing you. Thank you. You guys are so freaking sweet. And then Sarah S. on Instagram said, loved this new format. I love the mix of in-depth analysis with commentary. It was super fun and made my long commute a lot more enjoyable. Thank you guys. And then we also got some really sweet messages in Geneva, which I won't read, but I just so appreciate the feedback. I never know if I should read things from Geneva because I feel like it's kind of like a close community. It's like a Discord, right? So it's like a closed community essentially. So I don't want to like put you guys on blast if you're interacting with us in Geneva and then I kind of like read it out. But just know I saw them. Love you guys. Nara Smith, born Nara Pellman, is a model, influencer, and the wife of popular Tumblr model Lucky Blue Smith. They have 2 children, Rumble Honey and Slim Easy, and are currently expecting their third. Nara has gone viral for posting stay-at-home momfluencer content. While there is nothing inherently wrong with these types of videos, users have criticized her for promoting Tradwife ideology, Mormon propaganda, and anti-feminist beliefs. Nara's most viral moments have all been centered around her commitment to making food for her family completely from scratch. Aside from questions about how Nara possibly has the time, her content has led to accusations that she is creating Tradwife propaganda, an accusation that more and more creators in that momosphere space are facing in recent months. Now, I have explored the definition of Tradwife before, specifically when we investigated the career trajectory of Gwen Swinarton, a once bisexual ASMR YouTuber and OnlyFans creator who has seemingly transitioned to a Tradwife TikTok creator. Yes, that is a real sentence that I just said. A portmanteau, Tradwife is a descriptor combining traditional and wife. While the term originated in 2015, it has gained increasing popularity in the 2020s, particularly thanks to TikTok. In January of 2020, the BBC released a documentary called #Tradwife, Submitting to My Husband Like It's 1959, featuring a popular creator named Alina Kate Petite. This soon led to coverage from other mainstream outlets like the New York Times and The Guardian. The Tradwife niche has grown exponentially since then, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic and the advent of TikTok. At the time of recording, #Tradwife has 433 million views. TikTok creator Ali Rooker outlines some of the reasons why Tradwife content is on the rise. First, she notes that as Gen Z enters the workforce, they are realizing that basically work sucks, leading them to potentially follow the Tradwife path. Though Tradwife life involves significant domestic labor, this lifestyle might be appealing to young people because they are not working in a professional setting. The second is that there is a general malaise about capitalism at the moment, with many young people feeling unfulfilled in their career. Quote, at least being a Tradwife, serving someone that you love, maybe feels like there is a little more of a point, Ali says. Additionally, Ali explains that many women today tend to do a significant amount of domestic labor while also having a full-time job. So it may be enticing to leave the professional world if you have to do everything in the home anyway. Lastly, Tradwife is a very lucrative niche for creators. This is something that we as viewers should keep in mind when consuming Tradwife content. More on that later. The Tradwife belongs to TikTok's momosphere, the corner of the app where mothers and wives post content related to cooking, relationships, and parenting. The Tradwife will post content centered around domestic life, sharing aesthetic vlogs, preparing a meal for her children with the ingredients often made from scratch, or cleaning the house, sometimes with homemade cleaning supplies. But there is an important distinction to be made here. Tradwife is not an online aesthetic. It is not a type of content creator, and it is not a stay-at-home mom who likes to cook for her family. Tradwife is an ideology rooted in white supremacy. It is Nazi propaganda. And though Tradwives claim to be empowered by this lifestyle, its core values are deeply anti-feminist. Assistant professor of anthropology at Elon University, Devin Proctor notes, quote, Tradwives promote traditional gender roles in family life, wherein the man provides for and protects the family, and the woman has children and takes care of the family's needs. Tradwives believe that the place of the woman is in the home, justifying this perspective through various political, religious, and personal beliefs. By embracing traditional principles, Tradwives claim that opting for a more conventional path in marriage does not diminish their rights. The recent popularity of TikTokers like Nara Smith has created both increased interest in the trad lifestyle and a misunderstanding of what a tradwife actually is. The most obvious critique of tradwives is that their lifestyle is inherently sexist and heteronormative. Tradwives, often entrusting their husbands with complete control over the family's finances, find themselves confined to domestic responsibilities and are expected to wholeheartedly submit to their spouses. While this may be the goal, the tradwife lifestyle fundamentally contradicts the objectives of feminism, dating back to the first wave in the early 20th century. As Proctor writes, quote, "Tradwifery stands firmly against many feminist struggles over the past half-century. The right to work, the right to maintain one's own finances, the right to bodily autonomy, the right to freedom from harassment." Though many tradwives are proud to be, quote, "anti-feminist," Proctor explores how some tradwives maintain that their chosen lifestyle is a way of expressing feminism. This comes down to the concept of choice feminism, the idea that the individual choices of a woman are inherently feminist. But Proctor goes on to debunk this argument, noting that the majority of women don't have the luxury to make this choice. Quote, "For racial, geographic, cultural, and many other reasons, many women are unable to work even if they would choose to. And for economic and systemic reasons, many women who have to work would choose not to. The choice itself reflects privilege." Proctor also explains that domestic labor is inseparable from the demands of a capitalist society. While tradwives may opt for this lifestyle, their choice also responds to the significant challenges of balancing caregiving and the seemingly ever-rising cost of living. The tradwife lifestyle is driven by patriarchal norms and the notion of an idealized woman, undermining the perception of genuine choice among these women. As Bella Kellogg for the Michigan Daily writes, quote, "The patriarchal oppression doesn't discriminate between the traditionalists who embrace it and the feminists who defy it. Under the patriarchy, inferiority is an inescapable condition of the female psyche. Traditional women cope with this patriarchal oppression by framing their subordination as self-sacrifice. This includes the denial of basic emotional communication between themselves and their husbands." Having said that, it is not inherently anti-feminist for a woman to value and pursue their role as a mother and a wife. And this false conflation has created a lot of tension online as the tradwife aesthetic has become increasingly trendy. The real issue arises when these roles are weaponized to platform the alt-right, an ideology shrouded in racism and white supremacy. While many tradwives do not personally identify with the alt-right, it has been well documented that embracing the trad life can lead women down this path. Christy Champion and Kirioli Ignam write for The Conversation, quote, "Tradwives believe contemporary society is beset by decadence and consumerism, sexual depravity and promiscuity, and unnatural ways of living. This is all supposedly engineered to weaken the white race. Becoming a tradwife is one way far-right women push back against the supposed threats." Evian Ledig explains in the book The Women of the Far Right that the idea that society is in moral decay is very common in these circles. This has led many people who subscribe to this ideology to homeschool their children, quote, "to circumvent mainstream social and cultural norms." This conspiratorial mindset has become prevalent in tradwife circles, where many of these women adopt a crunchy lifestyle. For those unfamiliar with the term crunchy, it refers to a subculture defined by the pursuit of slow living, wellness, independence, and traditional aesthetics. As Kathleen Ballou writes for The Atlantic, quote, "Crunchy, coined as a pop culture reference to granola, has come to refer to a wide variety of cultural practices, including avoiding additives in food dyes, declining or spacing out childhood vaccinations beyond what pediatricians recommend, and more extreme actions in pursuit of health, independence, and purity." Ballou further outlines the crunchy to alt-right pipeline, observing that this subculture serves as a channel for direct recruitment into the white power movement. Essentially, individuals who embrace the crunchy lifestyle become more susceptible to fear-mongering and conspiracy theories, fueled by their pre-existing distrust in government, medicine, and other institutions. For an in-depth analysis on how this crunchy to alt-right pipeline happened before our very eyes with popular YouTuber Gwen Swinarton, check the show notes for our episode on Gwen in Season 4. Considering Baloo's crunchy to alt-right pipeline, tradwifery often has a strong association with the far right through domesticity and white nationalism. Tradwife memes are a good example of this. Author Casey Davis reflects on her experience with tradwife culture online in a recent TikTok series.
Tradwives are Nazi propaganda. I'm not being hyperbolic. They literally are. I've talked about this on my page before, but I recently discovered something that I first saw 15 years ago that I think will finally cement this for people that don't believe me. People think that Tradwife is like this new TikTok trend because it's videos of these beautiful women being like domestic goddesses and having these aesthetically pleasing videos of them like baking bread and having babies. But the term Tradwife, like the things that those people are doing when they hashtag Tradwife, it originated a long time ago. This is one of the first Tradwife memes. I first saw it 15 years ago, and it's this, liberal feminist versus Tradwife. Tradwife stands for traditional wife. And I want to draw your attention to two things on this chart. The Tradwife, bottom left, loves her family, race, and country in that order. Knowledgeable about her European roots. Homeschools her kids so they aren't taught progress BS in school. If we look over here at the liberal feminist, you can see, second from the bottom right, she's only attracted to black men. On the left, she aborted her black baby last year. By the way, the liberated feminist is chubby. Oh, you see that? Chubby and sleeps around. Whereas the Tradwife has a natural tan, natural hair highlighted from the sun, and a slim figure from her homemade meals.
The far right sees the woman's role as one of service, meaning that a woman's purpose is to bear children for her husband and subsequently spend her time raising them. Through these efforts, tradwives, quote, serve their imagined racial and cultural heritage, champion an ignum right. Tradwives draw upon a very specific period of history, the 1950s. Throughout this era, women were largely denied access to the workforce or any sense of independence. While this was vastly different from previous decades where women participated in activities such as textile production, agricultural management, industrial work, and even military service, tradwives view domestic life as the epitome of womanhood. While a tradwife's definition of true womanhood is oversimplified and inaccurate, it aligns perfectly with the messaging within alt-right circles. Beyond this synergy, championing 1950s ideals of womanhood inherently favors white women. As Proctor writes, quote, by framing these particular formations of gender roles and identities seen in the white middle-class United States of the 1950s as traditional, the tradwife personifies them into natural fact for all humans. This certainly makes for a powerful breeding ground for white supremacy and nationalism. And though many creators making aesthetic tradwife content would argue that they are not white supremacists and they see no correlation between their lifestyle and Nazi propaganda, some creators in this space do. One tradwife creator, known as Wife with a Purpose, whose real name is Elias Stewart, epitomizes these racist beliefs. In 2017, Elias started the, quote, White Baby Challenge, encouraging white people to match or beat her number of offspring. Annie Kelly writes for the New York Times, quote, Wife with a Purpose might be the most prominent and certainly most openly white supremacist of the women who call themselves tradwives, but she is not an anomaly. These accounts veer dizzyingly from Cosmo-style tips on pleasing your husband to racist musings about ghetto music to, on some occasions, calls to reassert their vision of the white race. Considering the ideals that underpin the tradwife lifestyle, Ali Rooker on TikTok outlines why tradwife propaganda is problematic.
You are working. This framing that there are women who work and there are women who don't work because men have gifted them the opportunity to stay home and cook and clean for them, you're both working. It is fine to want to stay home and do those things, but that is not a gift of no labor. You are both working, and when you're doing it exclusively in the home, you're working with no rights, no protection, no safety net. You are providing services that if you weren't around, that man would have to pay multiple professionals to get, because it's work, it's valuable work. But your job security in doing that is entirely contingent on that man deciding to keep you around. As your youth and your beauty, two things that are very protective of that job security, to a certain point, start to fade. Just because it feels fulfilling and free to not go to work every day does not mean you are free.
So with the these extremist beliefs in mind, what really constitutes Tradwife content? In a recent video, Casey Davis explores this question in relation to TikTok, explaining that Tradwife content is defined by 3 concepts. Number 1, women should be at home raising their children and men should be working outside the home. Number 2, they must be Christian religious. And number 3, they must believe that wives are called to submit to their husbands by God. Davis then notes some Tradwife red flags, which include homeschooling, homesteading, and the importance of being beautiful and feminine for their husband. So while Tradwife embodies a specific lifestyle with a set of underlying beliefs, TikTok users have increasingly applied this term to a wide range of creators in the momosphere, most of whom are not actually Tradwives. Emily Mariko is one creator who has been facing the Tradwife allegations as of late. Emily gained viral fame on TikTok in 2021 for her cooking and lifestyle content, most notably her salmon and rice bowls. Before becoming an influencer, she graduated with a neuroscience degree from Columbia University and worked at L'Oreal and Facebook. Last year, Emily married her longtime boyfriend, Matt Rickard, and is currently expecting a child. Her recent marriage and pregnancy, coupled with her cooking and cleaning videos, have led TikTok users to jump to conclusions and claim that Emily is a Tradwife.
Look, I'm just gonna say this. Emily Mariko is the ultimate Tradwife. The performance of domestic labor on her account is impeccable. In terms of the fine print of patriarchy, she is a dream wife. The audience, aka the people for whom she curates this performance, only know her as a woman who lives inside of a kitchen. She is pregnant and she is silent, which means that you, the viewer, get to project any of your own opinions or thoughts or feelings onto her. She is a vessel. This is literally the dream when it comes to patriarchy. A smiling, silent woman who cooks meals and reproduces.
However, Shannon McNamara, the host of the Fluently Forward podcast, recently made a TikTok questioning whether Tradwife is an accurate label for Emily.
I've been seeing videos on here of people calling Emily Mariko a Tradwife, and I just feel like the lingo is out of control. There is always a word that gets popularized on TikTok, and then people start assigning that word to everything, even when it shouldn't be. This happened with Nepo baby, right? People were like, ooh, anyone who's has rich parents is a Nepo baby. Not what the word means. Happened with PR relationship. People were like, oh, everyone is in a PR relationship. No. And now that the phrase Tradwife is getting popular now, it's been around for like years, people are using it in a way that doesn't mean anything. So I saw this video where this girl's like, Emily Mariko is a perfect Tradwife because she is performing domestic labor while pregnant and she is silent while she's doing it. Which, number one, performing domestic labor, she's cooking. Like, she's also cleaning up around the house, but I just find it crazy that there are so many male creators on here who all they do is cook. You know, there's that guy, right, who he's like, what does Catherine want? I'm going to make a meal for my wife every day. No one calls him a trad husband. Nobody would, because he's a man. But if you are a woman and you're cooking for people in the family, all of a sudden now it's sinister Tradwife like energy content.
Tradwife creators also espouse their values, calling on their followers to make food from scratch and uphold the traditional ideals of womanhood that we have already discussed. Emily Mariko, on the other hand, rarely shares anything with her followers. On top of this, Emily clearly has financial independence. She has had partnerships with different brands and most recently launched a $120 tote bag, a move that did generate considerable criticism, but I'm sure still made her a lot of money. The idea that Emily has financial independence and thus is not a Tradwife is a point worth exploring, however, because that is the hypocrisy of Tradwife content creators. They do have a job through content creation, and they do have financial independence through their influencing careers. A career built off telling other women to submit to their husbands and let them control their finances. Even if these popular Tradwife creators are not monetizing their videos through sponsorships or through the TikTok Creator Fund, they have a safety net of thousands, if not millions of followers that they can easily monetize if things go south in their marriage and they find themselves needing to support themselves. Another element of this discussion around Tradwife finances is the fact that so many of these really popular Tradwife influencers like Ballerina Farms have incredibly wealthy husbands. That privilege enables them to choose to stay at home and live a domestic life that is far more glamorous than the average woman. This financial privilege also appears to extend to Nara Smith, who, as noted at the top of the episode, has blurred the lines between Tradwife creator and mommy vlogger. Given her fame and influence at the moment, several journalists have attempted to uncover who Nara is and if she is really a Tradwife. First and foremost, Nara is married to Lucky Blue Smith, who was raised in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Tradwifery is closely linked with Mormonism. While not all Tradwives are Mormon, many Mormon mommy vloggers fall into the Tradwife category. This is arguably because Mormon beliefs around motherhood align with Tradwife values. The LDS Church places a strong emphasis on family values, and motherhood is highly regarded. Women are often encouraged to focus on their roles as wives and mothers, with an emphasis on nurturing and raising children in accordance with religious practices. With this in mind, many internet users have come to believe that Nara's content is promoting this lifestyle. Quote, "This couple is Mormon and making bank off of promoting Tradwife stay-at-home Mormon content. But both she and him are successful models, him being one of the most highly paid male models. She is not a Tradwife, but is encouraging women to be and to leave the workforce for men. Insidious," wrote ex-user at Give Receipts. While Mormon mommy vloggers may not actively proselytize or endorse their religion, many leverage their influence to advocate for values traditionally associated with the church, even when addressing a secular audience. E.J. Dixon for the Rolling Stone points to Ballerina Farm, whose real name is Hannah Nealman, as an example. Quote, "The former ballerina and beauty pageant winner has garnered 8 million followers by performing traditional wifedom and motherhood. She bakes bread barefoot, wears overalls in her rustic, wood-paneled kitchen, and cooks from scratch on her $30,000 AGA stove." Although there is an apparent link between Tradwives and Mormonism, Nara's affiliation with the church, beyond her connection to her husband, remains ambiguous. This complicates the claim that Nara's content is Mormon propaganda, as many TikTok users believe. Quote, "The specifics of Smith's relationship with Mormonism are unclear," Dixon continues. "Though I was unable to verify online rumors that she had converted upon marrying Smith, she has responded affirmatively to comments asking if she self-identifies as LDS, and she has obliquely referred to studying scripture and the Book of Mormon in her content." On top of this, Nara's content isn't overtly religious. She rarely, if ever, discusses her faith. Dixon claims she only mentions her faith to put a stop to rumors and speculations, pointing to a December 2023 TikTok where Nara says, quote, "It's absolutely crazy to me that people assume they know what I believe and what my faith is, and what they assume my stance on other issues are." Nara's admittedly tenuous association with Mormonism has prompted a discussion online about whether Nara would be receiving the same criticism if she were a white woman, as internet users do not direct the same amount of criticism towards white Mormon Tradwife creators, once again holding Black women to a double standard. On the flip side, many internet users feel unsettled by the fact that Nara is a woman of color and allegedly supports a church that has long been discriminatory to minorities. For example, until 1978, the Mormon Church avoided opening missions in areas with large Black populations, discouraged people with Black ancestry from investigating the church, advised members to avoid social interaction with Black people, and instructed Black members to segregate themselves when white members complained about having to worship with them. Some ex-users have even gone on to praise Nara, applauding her for excelling in a space dominated by white women. Quote, "People keep shitting on her because she's 22, Mormon, 2 kids and pregnant, but I saw a whole TikTok about how white women own this space and it's nice to see someone who isn't white succeed in this space. So that made me a Nara Smith fan. Thank you very much." So if Nara isn't promoting Mormonism, is she promoting Tradwifery? Nara's content definitely champions traditional stay-at-home motherhood, even though she caters to an audience that may not necessarily have those values or financial means to follow her lifestyle. Having acknowledged this, it's worth noting that she hasn't explicitly endorsed the Tradwife lifestyle. She doesn't espouse the racist or anti-feminist beliefs associated with Tradwifery. However, she does perform them in some ways, seemingly prioritizing domestic labor and acting like the idealized version of a woman. But as Dixon notes, we don't know the true nature of her relationship with her husband. She clearly values motherhood and being a homemaker, but it doesn't seem like patriarchal servitude is her only option, distinguishing her from many other women who may live a similar lifestyle. There is no indication on Smith's social media platform that her husband, Lucky, harbors such expectations. He appears to be a devoted partner to the degree that her fans and followers regularly swoon over the affection that they have for each other, expressing their desire to similarly cater to their own husbands. But it's hard not to notice that many of the meals his wife makes from scratch are intended for him, and that he is rarely seen performing any type of domestic labor whatsoever, Dixon writes. TikTok user Ali Rooker makes a similar point. While she doesn't speak on Nara specifically, she notes that many Tradwife or Tradwife adjacent influencers are selling a reality that doesn't truly exist.
This is the most insidious part of these Tradwife influencers, is they're not even Tradwives. They are not dependent on their husbands. They have their own money from influencing us to want to be Tradwives. But they've found a way around the worst part of being a Tradwife, the part that made us rebel against being a Tradwife and go get our own jobs, which is Tradwives are dependent on their husbands because they make all the money and we do all of the unpaid labor. They are getting paid for their labor, for selling you the aspirational life of being a Tradwife, while other people do the labor behind the scenes that make that aspirational, soft, easy life possible.
Nevertheless, considering the aspirational nature of Nara's content, she is essentially portraying what a perfect life could look like, potentially pushing her followers down the Tradwife path. But this is where we need to be cautious. TikTok users incorrectly putting the Tradwife label onto women poses a threat, impacting both the creator and the audience. Not only are we imposing a deeply problematic belief system onto quote-unquote regular influencers, but we are also downplaying the influence this ideology wields. It is easy to get caught up in the seemingly easy and fulfilling life of a Tradwife through her aesthetic vlogs and cooking videos. But it is only a slippery slope to adopting the racist, anti-feminist, and conspiratorial beliefs that support the doctrine. A slippery slope that has been well documented, as we explored earlier in the episode. As the Tradwife aesthetic continues to expand across TikTok, it is more important than ever for us to understand the nature of this ideology and which creators actually fall into the Tradwife category. Because while every Tradwife is a stay-at-home mom, not every stay-at-home mom is a Tradwife. And it's imperative we understand the difference between mommy vloggers sharing their lives and Tradwife creators peddling white supremacist propaganda. Infinite Scroll is a podcast written, produced, edited, and presented by me, Lauren Meisner, for Centennial World. Additional research and reporting is by Annabelle Ben-David. Thank you so much for listening. I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.